Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Monday Q&A. This is a place where I answer your direct and specific questions. So if you have a question that is direct and specific for me, as long as it can be generalized and is not diagnostic in nature, please email it to me at info.drzphd.com or info@drzphd.com. It is in a description box. And I will be very, very happy to include it in Monday Q&As. Right now, I gotta say, in Monday Q&A folder, I only have a few more series because I picked 6 questions, so I don't have that many questions left. So if suddenly there won't be Monday Q&A, just please note that I simply just no longer have questions, which means that it seems like everybody's doing fine. And if that's the case, I am really, really happy that people don't really have a lot of the snagging questions. But if you do have questions, feel free to email it to me. As always, I have picked 6 random questions for today. I have blocked out everybody's name. For privacy, I have not read the questions yet, so we're going to go over it all together. And there is going to be timestamps below indicating in case if you want to jump around in terms of topics. So I'm really excited, so let's get going. First question for today. Good morning, good afternoon, Dr. Z. Thank you for all that you do for us. You are so welcome. My pleasure. It is much appreciated. I am a transitioning 63-year-old woman. I find myself envying younger women who are capable of pulling off more flirty type apparel that I wish that I could reasonably pass wearing the same clothes. I also envy them for their body shape and ability to present off the female so easily. I realize nobody said that being a woman would be easy, but it takes a lot of work, which I am quite willing to do. Do you have any answer as to how I may stop my feelings about this? So this is a great question, primarily touches on gender envy. I have a great video discussing gender envy in detail. A lot of times, let me start with this. And this is just how I tend to help navigate when I have clients who are in your age group. You're 63, when I have clients who are in their 60s and they're trying to find their sense of femininity through expression of the clothes. What I find that tends to help my clients, and maybe this might be helpful to you, is to find individuals who are close to that age group that they find, perhaps, sometimes people in that age group will tell me they love Catherine Deneuve, French actress, and how she presents herself. Sometimes they will point out to some other individuals in a social milieu figures. And I will ask them, what do you find about their style beautiful and what resonates to you? And a lot of times what comes for individuals in this age group, in my experience, is grace. They love the gracefulness, the beautiful gracefulness of this women. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I think that it can be challenging because you will inevitably see so many people around you going through transition, including a lot younger girls going through transition, and you're going to be overwhelmed because part of you is going to want to also, maybe like you mentioned, wear something that they're able to wear, but you find that it's challenging for you to wear that because you feel maybe less comfortable in it. Again, style of clothing is very personal. There's some people in your age group who will feel very comfortable wearing something a 20-year-old will wear. To each its own. If you struggle with it, if you only struggle with it, then I would recommend looking at women that you style that you really like and see what is it about it that you like. Chances are something you like about their style is something that's going to resonate with you, with your style. And that can help you kind of find how to articulate your style around that. Presentation wise and finding ourselves and finding what speaks to us in terms of style sometimes can take a while. It doesn't come natural to a lot of people. For me to figure out what my style is took a while. I wasn't just kind of innately born knowing how I wanted to present. Now my style is very personal to me. My haircut and my ginormous glasses are very personal to me. I think sometimes one person commented and they said it's time for you to change your your style or signature look. And it's not a style. This is part of who I am. This is extension of how I see myself. Even the sharpness and straightforwardness of my haircut parallels my direct style of speaking and sharing information. So take your time, allow yourself to evolve, allow yourself to find which style resonates with you, and allow yourself to find what works for you. And don't compare yourself to other women out there. Don't compare yourself to other women, especially who are younger. Compare yourself to yourself. You should be your own comparison when you look in a mirror. Gender envy is going to be there because it's hard not to have gender envy. It's sometimes okay to have gender envy as long as you don't turn it into an ideal that then you're trying to achieve. But as long as it is perhaps something that pushes you, helps you, good. If it's something that just makes you have very negative dialogue with yourself, I would be very mindful of that because you deserve better than that. I'd love to hear what others comment, how they have found themselves, what works for them in the below. This is a great question. Question number 2. Hello, Dr. Z. I'm emailing you in correspondence to your question Q&A videos, and I enjoyed and receive so much great advice from them. You are so welcome. I'm glad to hear. Thank you for your amazing work. You truly have helped me in my own personal life, and I'm very grateful. So thank you very much. You are so welcome. I'm a trans woman, and I'd like to keep my email and my name private. No problem. If you don't mind, of course not. Everybody's information, by the way, is always very private. But I have 2 questions. I have experienced myself. Is it normal for adult trans women to use age regression as a coping skill, like playing with toys, children's movies, coloring, etc.? And is it healthy, especially if we're still living our every life and accomplishing what we need to get done, but also just enjoy when we can regress and maybe take back our childhood? So before I get to the second question, let me answer this first question. So is it healthy to I guess you're calling it age regression as a coping skill? Let me see how I want to answer this. I personally would not think that it's a good coping skill. I wouldn't call it coping skill. However, if you feel like you did not have element of childhood associated with those stereotypically female and feminine attributes, dolls, children's movies, colorings, whatever you associate, and you feel like engaging in that activity is soothing to you, is therapeutic to you, is enjoyable to you, I don't see any harm with that. I don't think that toys or coloring or children's movies are only for children. The reason why I'm hesitating is because I've seen people ask me about regression and almost now as adult regressing to that state and living in that regress state, which in my opinion, that's not healthy because you are an adult. In my opinion, you are no longer a child. So you can't just suddenly, for example, well, you can, but I just think it's going to be, in my opinion, just probably, I don't know how to word it. You can definitely, for example, go to your adult job and bring dolls with you and bring other things with you, elements of your childhood with you. But I think it's important to acknowledge that there's part of us that wants to reconnect to the missed out childhood. That's one of the things, and that's fine. Like I said, if that's soothing and enjoyable and therapeutic, of course. But if there's a part of us that sometimes goes beyond that and now wants to relive it as adults, as if we're actually living it and bringing it into our life in this way, we're actually reenacting it in a way, then I think it's a little bit problematic, in my opinion, at least, because you are an adult, you're no longer a child. And I think for adults, that's just not, in my opinion, it can be counterintuitive. Having said that, again, if this is something that like you said, you're still living everyday life, you're accomplishing what you need to have done, but you also enjoy, I don't know, I guess, get back to your childhood, maybe coming home and putting in movies that you never had a chance to enjoy because you were told that's a movie for girls and you can't enjoy it. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that's totally fine. The second question is in regards to family. My family is from the rural South and not supportive on either side. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I have about a handful of family members who don't hate me for transitioning. They aren't supportive, they just don't hate me. They aren't supportive, they just don't hate me, huh? So they're also not supportive, and I see what you're saying. They don't hate you, they're just not supporting. So you're equating that differently. Okay, my family has been emotionally, psychologically, and physically abusive even before I transitioned because being feminine in their eyes was evil. So they felt the need to beat it out of me. God, I'm so sorry. Now I can understand maybe why you're drawn to reconnect with some childhood that you gravitate toward. But like, let's say you gravitate toward play with dolls and you were punished for it. So painful. Abuse got worse once I transitioned because transition was a disdefined, disrespectful, and childish act to them. I eventually left home and left them behind. I'm in a healthier place, thank God, and setting my own family under my own values. Good for you. I'm very grateful, but it's difficult to deal with what happened to me back before I left. I bet it's difficult to not be able to see them because I am not welcome. Gosh, why do families do this? It's always strangers will be kinder than families are a lot of times. My mother is dying of cancer and she does not like me. She allowed abuse to happen, but she don't stop loving your mother. I don't know how to handle the situation. Sometimes I feel like in a relationship we have is my fault because I transitioned and wouldn't let them belittle and dead name me without getting upset. How do I move on from an entire family, an entire world, and deal with the abuse without taking it into my future relationship? Oh my God, my heart really goes out to you. And deal with abuse without taking it into my future relationship. So first thing is that if you're afraid, you may recreate patterns of abuse in your future relationship. Therapy can really help. Find a local therapist. You mentioned here, how do I stop loving when it's your mother? I hold an opinion that this idea that we have to love our parents no matter what, because they gave birth to us or because they parented us, I strongly believe it's a myth. I strongly believe it's this culturally enforced ideas. To me, this is not true, especially if your parents are abusive and toxic and did some horrific things to you. I'm of an opinion that you have every right to set a boundary and every right to find and create, like you already did, a new family of people who love and care about you. And you have every right not to continue to love your parents. I know it's a challenging situation. Your mom is struggling with cancer. If I was in your shoes, the best I could do, if I wanted to be a better person, is to offer to visit her, is to offer to spend time with her. If she refuses because she doesn't want to be around me, because she doesn't want to accept and acknowledge where I am at in my life, then there's that. There's nothing I can do. But the best I can do for me is to offer that. So, and that sounds like where your heart is leaning to. So that's something to think about. There's so much you can do. Because what are you supposed to do? Just detransition just so you can spend last day with your mom? I don't know how you would feel afterwards. Would you then end up being angry at yourself for the rest of your life for doing that? So it's a tough situation. It's a very personal question. It's only something you can decide. I shared with you what I would do. This is my personal thing. But also please know that this is really big social myth that you have to love your parents no matter what. One and two, sounds like you already have a beautiful family, and I know you miss your family, and that's painful. So many people struggle with that. So many people, even though they have new families, still struggle because they're not the ones who don't want, they would rather be with their families, but it's their families that are making a choice to cut them off, to disown them, to pull away from them. And that's really, really difficult. So my heart really goes out to you. I wish you all the best. And um, I hope some of the part of your childhood pain and trauma gets healed in the near future. Question number 3. I'm closing in on 42 years old, and I have been on hormones male to female for close to 1 year. Apart from my doctors, no one knows about my hormones, not even my several transgender friends. Ooh, you're in a closet? Yes, 1 year on hormones, and not even your doctors? Wow. Also, it would be, I'm saying wow because it's quite not that there's anything wrong, lots of people do it. That's got to be quite hard though. Also, it would be nice to be able to converse with people who have done this before and who know the process better than myself. The reason I haven't told my friends that I worry some or all may be offended by what I'm doing. To explain, they know me as part-time cross-dresser, and I have never referred to myself as trans or anything similar around them. That said, for context, they have only ever seen me when presenting female, never as male. I'm quite part-time, as I only present female in certain times and situations. And while I would prefer to be a woman, I don't have any significant struggle with presenting male the majority of the time. It's interesting because you said they have only ever seen you when presenting female, never as male. So they only know you as, apparently you came out to them as a cross-dresser, so they only saw you constantly in feminine. Is that correct? I'm assuming that's correct, and not a typo. And for a number of reasons, I don't have any current plans to fully transition, so I don't have to deal with the day-to-day problems many trans people do. And that is why I worry my friends may react negatively, because I have not and likely will not put in the work, quotation marks, so to speak. In your opinion, am I approaching this the right way? So a few things, okay? I'm assuming the reason why you're asking this question is primarily because a lot of your friends are, or some of your friends are trans themselves. And so you present to them as a cross-dresser and you present to them in femme, a lot of, sounds like all of the time, but you're concerned about being completely out to them because you feel like they may pull away, at least perhaps the ones who are not trans, but you're concerned that perhaps maybe, I'm assuming you're extrapolating because it's not very clear. Are you concerned that trans friends specifically are going to say, well, if you're trans, then you have to go all the way while you're not working your transition and you're afraid you're going to lose them? If that is the case, people have to realize there is multi-way approaching transition. There's, working transition is whatever working transition is for you. There's no manual on working transition. So that's one of the things. But are you approaching this from the right way? That's personal decision. You have been a year on hormones. Nobody knows. How do you feel about it? You already expressed in here that you're struggling by not having anybody to talk about it. I know that it can get very lonely, and especially the longer you are on feminizing hormones, the more sometimes you come more in touch and in contact with your inner authentic self. And that can be so wonderful and liberating. And I know that for a lot of you, that part that gets in touch with that just wants to shout out from the top of the heel that this is me and wants to be seen. So to keep that part that you're now feeling more affirmed and more affirmed with can be challenging. I recommend for people to start sharing at least to one person and see how it goes, and then to another person, because there's nothing like having people around you who care about you and love you and support you. And you might be surprised how your friends, even trans friends, might respond. They may completely understand your need of not fully going through transition right now because of what's going on in terms of social climate toward trans people. So really something to sit on. Is this the right way to approach it? There's no right way to approach it. There's only your way to approach it. And if this is something that started to nag at you and you really want to start sharing it with other people, then perhaps it's time to start sharing that with other people. That's what I would say. But there's no one particular right or wrong way to approach it, just what works for you. And like I said, you'd be surprised. A lot of people fears the worst, and it's sometimes worse does happen, but a lot of times it's not as bad as people do fear. So think about that. Question number 3. Hi, Dr. Z. I am a 21-year-old trans woman and have been transitioning for about 7 months. I've been struggling with self-hate a lot. This month, this mostly resolved when I came to the conclusion that I can't blame myself for being who I am and even for what I've been through so far. I'm trying to do my best and I can't expect anything more from myself. Yeah, you sound very um, um, compassionate and kind towards yourself. That's good. What I'm currently struggling with is the hate I now feel towards society in general. I feel like almost everyone is mostly unintentionally contributing to my suffering. I have daydreams of lashing out at these people. I have the urge to tell the people around me that they shouldn't be ignorant of the lives of trans people and by suffering and of my suffering. When people don't seem to care, I get angry. When I still struggle with self-hate, I'll get anxious instead. Either feeling is very exhausting, so I still self-isolate to avoid those feelings. I'm currently trying to find a way to be at peace with this cruel society. Do you have any tips apart from slowly assimilating through a medical transition? Oh, my heart really goes out to you because I think to some extent for you and for a lot of other people who are listening, to some extent, being angry at yourself can be a little bit more tolerable than being angry at society because society encompasses such a big sphere of your everyday living and it can be difficult to exist in it. It's really hard. First of all, I'm really glad you started to work towards feelings of self-hate and you really started to acknowledge that you are doing the best you can and that you deserve more and you are truly enough. Um, and I don't blame you for being angry at society. And I can't imagine anybody not being angry at society right now. I think before I get to your full question, one of the things that can help you and anybody else who feels angry at society is to realize that while it may really feel like everybody or by far majority of society is really against you, the truth is that is not the case. It is so not the case. It just so happens that people who have really big mega platforms and bigger people who have mega visibility are utilizing it in such a way to spread a lot of misinformation and lies and hate. And as a result of their mega platforms, it feels exponentially like everybody feels this way. But the truth is there's a lot of people who don't feel that way. There's a lot of people who don't hate you. There's a lot of people who may not understand, but they don't hate you. There truly are. So start realizing that I think would be very, very helpful. And I also think that, you know, uh, when I see people who are very, very, there's different. So there's people who are truly don't know otherwise, and they're operating from place of not knowing, and they're trying to understand. That's one category. But I see people who are very hateful, people who comment on my channel who are very hateful. You know, I personally feel really bad for them because first of all, their comments are so, and I think I said it on the channel before, the comments are so not even making a point, not even making a case. It's just like hateful verbal diarrhea, spitting out. It's neither here nor there. Um, I just, to me, that is really sad. It's really sad that people don't have things to occupy in their life, don't have things to be mindful of in their life. So it just makes me really sad. So just maybe think about that. But your questions, do I have any tips apart from slowly assimilating um, through a medical transition? Because you're saying that you're going through medical transition, you're like assimilating, I guess, into society, if you will. Any tips? Just take care of yourself. Work on that anger towards society. Work on it. Work on it in a healthy way. Exercise. Work on it in a way where you can go to therapy. Work on it in a way where you can externalize it through some art or shape or form. Connect with larger communities. Don't connect with groups that maybe too much of activism where they will fuel your anger. Connect with reason. Connect with, I recently put under community sharing part of the YouTube, I put a recent short 13-minute Judith Butler talking about what is gender. Brilliant. Judith just talks about, it really is all about human rights. It has nothing to do with gender, it's all human rights. So connect with individuals who are critical thinkers, who are talking about in a broader way. Recognize you're not alone. You're not alone in the midst of this. Connect with people who support you, who are uplifting, who are positive. And when you do that, you yourself will start notice how the hate is going to dissipate. Do not isolate yourself. Isolating is the worst thing you can do for yourself. Don't isolate, but connect with people who support you. Bring more love, bring more joy, bring more happiness into your life. Focus on things you want to achieve. Focus on things you want to cultivate and bring in your life, even if it's really difficult. Surround yourself with that. And when you do that, everything around you will flourish. Hate is still going to be there, but you will notice yourself not having a need to react to the hate. You will notice yourself responding to the hate in a calmer way. I think I said it before, one of my favorite graffiti artists is Banksy. He has this great graffiti painting called Flower Bomb, where he's holding flowers and he's about to throw. And I get negative comment, and I want to, anytime I want to react, I picture myself throwing flowers back. How can I throw back kindness? How can I throw back niceness? So just think about that, and I think that will help you. But yeah, it's tough, and I think that people who have those big platforms are making it seem like it's worse than it actually is. Question number, number 5. Hi, Dr. Z. Thank you for all you do. You are so very much welcome. I'm 48-year-old trans woman, 1.5 years hormones. At the moment, I'm really struggling and feel hopeless. I feel like I might never pass, and I will always be seen as a thing or an it. Oh. I've tried to get support other than therapy, which is very expensive here, through social media, and I rarely get replies unless my questions are pink and fluffy, and had a horrible recent experience on TikTok. You had a horrible recent experience on TikTok. I apologize. I think I cut out part of the message, so it's hard for me to read. Thing is, I agree with some of the bad comments, as I feel that way about myself daily. Oof. It leads me to believe I am alone as usual. Is this just a part of my hormone journey? Will I ever like what I see in the mirror? I feel like it's a broader community hate, or at the best dislike trans people, and the trans people only want to hear good things as nothing realistic. It sounds like the questions I pick up are all kind of relevant in some way or another. I'm just feeling stuck and often stupid, and have considered detransition, but I worked so hard to get here, and going back to not really an option and that leaves any hope. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Okay, so I'll give you some thoughts. One, I would really recommend for anybody who is on hormones, feel like you're not really getting the effects of the hormones you're getting, feel like you're not really starting to feel affirmed, feel like you're not starting to get your confidence going up. If you're in that position, and then you also feel like you're getting negative feedback because you're on social media posting pictures of yourself, the first advice is get off social media. Social media is very driven by like culture. It's very driven by those hearts you're going to get, likes. And when social media is present, people lose the capacity to understand that they're talking to a human being. They start seeing you as an object. The minute they see you as an object, they will spew hate without even thinking about how it's going to affect. They will just look at the comments on this channel. I have become an object. My content has become an object. I'm no longer human. I am a thing that people can just shit on. So my first advice is get off social media. Unless you are on social media to connect to people, like then in that case, still stop posting pictures of yourself, because you need to first, I would recommend cultivate some confidence for yourself within, then seeking it outside of yourself. I would also really recommend for you to find people that you connect with. Maybe it is a local LGBTQ center. You mentioned therapy is being too expensive where you at. Is there a local LGBTQ center? Is there a local LGBTQ group? Is there a closed Facebook group of people who are just starting out, or people who've been on hormones for 1 to 3 years? Connect to those groups. Find people you really resonate with and connect with. Ask people that you trust honest advice. If you feel like there's something you need to work on, if you feel like passing is important, remember, passing is not for everybody. Ask people honestly what they think could be improved. Other than that, will you ever see yourself? You ask this question, I think, in here. Hormones sometimes in of itself are challenging. It takes a while, and there's little, it depending what really matters for you. For trans women for whom passing matters, um, hormones is important, but beyond hormones, it's doing and tweaking things with finding ways to express ourselves that suddenly feels like, I see myself. And it's not even about society seeing you, it's about you first seeing yourself. And that sometimes can, like the first question, that can take time to find that sense of style, to find that sense of expression. So I would recommend, don't give up. Like you said, what is, no, like I said, I have seen people, this is honest truth. I have seen people of all ages, of all demographics, of all socioeconomic status. I have worked with a person, she was homeless. She was living on the street and she was making things work for her. She was finding ways to express herself. There's always nuggets of possibility, but you have to also exist. You have to exist amongst the supportive environment that can help you illuminate those nuggets of possibility. And for you, those nuggets of possibility could be supportive people. They're not going to be on social media. They're not. I would never recommend anybody posting a picture of themselves and asking strangers, how do I look? Because again, people don't see human, they see a thing. And the minute they see a thing, like you said, you put quotation, they see a thing or it, they start treating you as such. People are just terrible. They don't realize that this is a platform, but behind the platform, it's still a human being. So that's the first thing, get off social media and then connect to people. And start really taking care of yourself, start cultivating care of yourself, start cultivating your worth from inside out. If you don't have my book and you want my book, email me. I'd be happy to send you a PDF copy of my book. Anybody who wants a free copy of my book and can't afford it, email me. You can have a PDF file of the book. The book is very uplifting. It talks about some of the things, and I think it's going to help you cultivate the right mindset. So that's what I would say, and I wish you all the best. And yeah, social media is an asshole. Final question for today, and this looks like a big question. Dear Dr. Z, first I wanted to say I really appreciate your empathy and compassion towards people who are questioning their gender, struggling with dysphoria, and going through transition. You're so welcome. It's really is my life path to do this work. I'm also grateful for the online content and your books. They have been helpful. Yes. My question, can one's gender identity evolve? What a great question. I am assigned male at birth in my late 40s. I've been living, presenting, and identifying as a woman for 2 years now. There's a long process to get hormones where I live, including many psychological evaluations. I feel conflicted having to present an entire narrative to prove that I have always been transgender. While I can't remember questioning my gender as young as 4, I've lived as a man for most of my life. How do I reconcile that? Constructing a trans narrative leaves me with doubts. Why? Why now? Did it just evolve later? Could it evolve back later? Yet every step I have taken to transition so far has made me so much more happier. And I love myself more than I ever have. Does it matter if I didn't play with dolls when I was a child? What a great question. So, first of all, I gotta say, when you live in the parts of the world where you have to prove yourself in order to get access to care. And a lot of times by proof, this is an old dogmatic ways of you have to come in and you have to tell one of those classic stories. I feel like I'm trapped in a wrong body. And you have to say that your genitals specifically are giving you a lot of dysphoria, and ever since childhood you knew this. Any good therapist working in this field knows that that's bullshit. That yes, some people do feel that way, but by far a lot of people don't feel that way. So when you live in a part of the world where you have to prove that, it will start messing with your headspace. It will start then making you wonder if the therapist who is requiring that of you, who's sitting across from you and says you need to meet all of these requirements, then there's the authority, there's the right one. And because I don't have the childhood experiences, I never played with, like you said, with certain childhood things when you were, with dolls, when you were a child, then you start questioning, they must be right. They know something I don't. And I am wrong. Then I'm probably not trans. So it's going to do a mind fuck on you. If you're sitting across a therapist that demands you to prove it, you're sitting across an amateur therapist at least in a field of gender. I'm just going to call it out. Any therapist who says you need to prove to them, to me, is an amateur therapist in a field of gender. You don't need to prove. The therapist is there to assess the presence of gender dysphoria, in my opinion, which is a psychological distress, and then to help you figure out what, if anything, you need to do about it. What's important for you to realize is that what does your ongoing experiences, what kind of patterns of some ongoing experiences form for you? And for you, the ongoing experiences you have when you allow yourself to embrace your authentic gender is that you feel really good. Every step you said you're thinking so far made you so much happier, and you love yourself. That's what matters. Not what therapist is going to say, but what matters is how you feel and whether those feelings are consistent. If as you continue to do these things, they continue to feel affirmed and affirmed and affirmed, that's a sign. I have a video on like what does it mean if you don't have childhood memories. Lots of people don't have dysphoria originating in childhood. Some people have an onset in childhood. Some people have an onset later in adulthood. Some people have an onset in puberty. You question, does gender identity evolve? 100% it evolves. I bet my head on it. And it evolves differently for everybody. And it evolves because our understanding of gender evolves. It evolves because we're situated in a different historical context within which the understanding of gender is also situated. So, I know it's hard and you feel like you need to be constructing the narrative, but be yourself and hopefully you get a really good therapist. But no, you don't need to have all those childhood experiences and whatnot. And so do you live in a part of the country where that is a requirement, and but that is not a necessity. A lot of people don't have onset in childhood. That has been pretty well documented. So hopefully that answers for you. Again, trust your experiences, trust your own compass. I think a lot of people lose the contact with their inner compass, and as a result they struggle a lot. But trust your inner compass, trust this more than anything else. So hopefully this was helpful. Great Q&A. If you have anybody listening have a Q&A, feel free to email to me at info at Dr. Z PhD. Is in the description box below, and comment below, share your input. I see a lot of people sharing, helping everybody else. It has been really wonderful to see that. So comment below, share, and I will see you all next time. Bye.